Between the potential of never having the same run to the ability to try and plan for the best run, mixed with some good old RNG, roguelikes / roguelites are probably one of my favorite genres of gaming to experience. But not every roguelike is considered a masterpiece or even worth your money just because it falls in that category. And today I wanted to rank all the roguelikes I've put a good amount of time into. And because of this, I'll probably be skipping some favorite roguelikes people like out there, like Dead Cells or Slay the Spire. But with all that said, let's just start alphabetically with BlazBlue Entropy Effect. In this game, you play as a robot called Ace, who is doing simulations and uses essentially the bodies of BlazBlue characters. For those who don't know, BlazBlue is a fighting game series. And because of this, you will travel through different types of worlds, using different types of characters who each have their own specific move sets. And as you level up or just, get more skills, you learn more of what would be their fighting game move sets. There are some aspects of like summoning little creatures here and there, and all around the combat's pretty fluid. The visuals are very, very nice. But I will say the level system, the way you just constantly just go through each biome, can get a little stale. The permadeath is interesting actually, because when you die, you get like a copied version in code that you can essentially scan onto your new character and give some of those abilities, making you stronger for the next run. In terms of replayability, I wouldn't say it's awful, but if I had to give it a ranking, I would probably give it a B tier. Next, we have the classic Binding of Isaac, which everyone loves. It's a twin stick shooter where every character plays differently with different life totals, different parameters. But I will also say, candidly, I have not played this game in a very long time. I picked it up on the Switch, and I used to watch a ton of Twitch streams about it. But for me personally, it feels too RNG based, and that kind of made me not want to play the series as much. But I can respect the amount of content, all the updates that have gone into it, and just for that, I know it deserves A, so I'm not going to try to let my bias get too much. That is a solid place to always start if you're looking to get into the genre. Next, we have Brotato. Brotato is also just a movement-based roguelike where all you're essentially doing is moving your little potato guy around in a 4x4 box where creatures will spawn continuously and you have to get new weapons. It is very addicting if you played Vampire Survivors as well. Brotato is fun in the fact that there's tons of challenges. There is a good amount of replayability because depending on who you beat it with and what you've done getting stats, it unlocks different abilities, different characters, different weapons. I will say it does get a little stale. There are no biome changes. There's not too many character differences. But if you're looking for something just quick, kind of turn your brain off, I would recommend Brotato. But because of all that, I would put it at the bottom of B tier for now. Not a bad game, it's cheap, and I would try it if you had the chance. The next game we have is Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb is probably the most sim-like roguelike you're going to get. Is a lot of making sure your villagers are happy, making sure they're fed. And because of how you interact with that, while you're doing your actual dungeon crawls, which do not last long at all, even your villagers can continue to deteriorate or mess up. So when it comes to the actual combat that you might be looking for in a roguelike, this doesn't excel at it. The combat's not bad, it's fluid, it's fast, but it's not like the focus point, if that makes sense, or at least that's how I feel about it. But all in all, it's a solid package. They gave you some free updates. I haven't tried that because I maxed out the simulation part. I kind of lost the appeal of continuing the dungeon crawling. But I'd still give Cult of the Lamb a B. Next, we have a game called Crab Champions, which at first glance just looks like a complete meme. And you're like, all right, this is just a quick little cash grab. I believe I bought this game for $5. It still might be in early access, but it's probably one of the fastest shooting roguelikes I've experienced. You're playing in a third-person view over the shoulder, and you're just a crab. The mobility is insane. There's a good chunk of weapons. They've actually added more difficulty modifiers. The Enemy variety is okay. Essentially, it's just copy paste different like crabs with elements on them. There's still some boss fights. You can mix it up. The shops, it's still going. The guy seems very passionate about it. There's plenty of items to grab that change up how the dynamics of each run works. And yeah, honestly, this is a surprisingly good gem that I enjoyed, and I didn't even give it an A, especially with all the content that's still coming along with it. Next, we have Dead Estate. This was something I got in a humble bundle for like $3, and I was not expecting anything from this game. So with my expectations low, the pixel art I loved right from the beginning, and you are in a procedurally generated room by room basis where you have to go up the floors to get to the roof to figure out why everyone is getting to Dead Estate. Now, when you first start, you only have 2 characters, and it might look like there's no way to unlock more, but if you can manage to beat the game twice with each one of them, you'll unlock more. And then when you beat it with that character, you continue to unlock more characters. So there's a lot of like hidden unlocks. And each character has their own special traits, like one can only use magic weapons, one can dash in the air and grab, one has less health but shoots faster, one can carry 3 items, so on and so forth. There is a good little background story, and all in all, it's a really solid package. Tons of different weapon variety, and just the bosses are fine. You can do different trails. If you get bored, you can take like the harder path, or you can just do the regular one and just continue runs. You can loop. I'm a big fan of roguelikes that allow you to keep looping until you want to die. And yeah, Dead Estate, solid package, worth every single penny I spent on it. I would give it an A tier. Now, I know at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I would not be ranking Dead Cells. Then I realized I actually did put a good amount of time into Dead Cells. I'm just bad at it. And that's hard for me to rank personally. I can identify how many items there are, but I can also just be completely biased and say I haven't played the new DLC. I haven't even made it. The Castlevania one looks amazing, which actually might make me jump back into the game. But as far as I am concerned, it's kind of got the same thing as Binding of Isaac. I can tell it's a really fantastic game, and I don't want to harp on it and deter people from playing it. So yeah, give it a shot. It just isn't completely for me, but again, it has so many good aspects that make roguelikes a fantastic genre to begin with that I'd be doing it a disservice if I put it anything lower than A. Now, this might be my biggest hot take here, and that's going to be Deep Rock Galactic. I had actually convinced people to buy this game to play with me due to some recommendations I saw through YouTube videos, and personally, I was very disappointed. I didn't like the gameplay loop. It felt very boring. I'm not a big graphics guy, but something about the way this was presented to me just seemed, I don't want to say low effort, because it does look like it has effort into it, but I just couldn't handle it. I do enjoy the fact of like having multiple different teammates with different abilities, but if you're not actively working together, it just goes to crap. Like, it's a very hard experience for me to enjoy. Even though many others do, and to each their own. But for me personally, I'm going to have to give Deep Rock Galactic a D. I just can't get into it. You're not going to see me playing it too much. I have hours in it because I want to play with friends. That's all I got. Now, I debated putting this on here, but if you go on Steam and you put roguelikes and you categorize them by roguelikes, technically For the King does meet the standards. For the King is like a D&D turn-based board system where you can have up to 3 friends and you each control a party member. But I guess the roguelike dynamics come into the fact where you can earn coins and books, and when you die, you can upgrade yourself. Or actually just add more items to the story that you can potentially find. So in that regard, I think it does a really solid job. And if I just had to sing the praises of For the King, there's so many game modes, you can mix it up constantly. Each one giving their own challenges. You can challenge yourself without putting extra party members. And if you haven't tried For the King 2 is coming out soon, I believe. So, I mean, pick it up, give it a shot. If you're more into turn-based D&D experiences with some roguelike aspects, I give For the King a chance. And I would also just give For the King the top of B, probably. Going Under is just a silly cartoon-like dungeon crawling roguelike. It felt like it had a lot of inspiration from Hades when I first started playing it. There are some cool aspects of like just being able to pick up the environment, like whether it's like getting in a car and driving around, grabbing a lamp and hitting somebody. It's a very goofy experience. It's not taking itself seriously. And I think I really enjoyed that, but once you start playing, it feels like a lot of the objectives they give you are just there to add some fluff. So I'm torn between enjoying the goofy gameplay versus essentially feeling like they're just trying to fluff out the playtime. I did not beat the game completely because it started to lose its luster. I started to see the same items. There are like abilities that you can find, but it wasn't enough to keep me going. It didn't feel interesting enough in that aspect. So now that I'm actually talking myself down on this one, I feel like going under. It should get a C. Someone's gonna go and C. Gunfire Reborn is a first-person shooting roguelike with multiple different weapons that you unlock via challenges. And when you're beginning to get all the unlocks, it's very fun. It's a very fun experience. You can earn what's essentially called Spirit Essence to increase your character skill tree in between runs. So that's where the roguelike aspect comes into play. And it doesn't have a massive power creep, which is what I really enjoy sometimes. It's fun with friends, but I would never really be playing Gunfire Reborn by myself. The aspect of the game is fun. There's a really cool challenge mode that I actually started playing. There is a lot of depth, but when it comes to like item synergies or anything like that, it feels like there's not a lot of depth in the items. So because of that, I'd probably only give Gunfire Reborn a B. Now I can't talk about a roguelike tier list without talking about the gem of all gems in my eyes, Hades. Hades is almost the perfect roguelike in my eyes. Between the amazing different variety in weapons and the option to just really try to control the run as much as you possibly can, try to get it the way you want, while still having some good aspects of RNG. With the modifiers for difficulty, the story, the graphics, the combat feels so fluid. I mean, I could sit here and make a whole video about the praises of Hades. I'm glad I picked it up. I was originally like, maybe I'll try it or not. I was convinced, and I think that was the best decision I've ever had. Hades is just a masterclass. A masterclass in roguelikes, and if you haven't tried it, please give it a shot. And you know exactly where that's going. It's going to S tier. Now, the next game is called Inscrptytion. This game has had some controversy, whether it's a roguelike or not. I personally do think it is. And without spoiling the story, because the story is really, really good in Inscrptytion, and there's a lot of secrets in that aspect, to make the most umbrella term I can for this game, you are doing a deck building roguelike, where when you lose, you might get like a special card, you can get like things for future runs, but it continues to evolve and change as the game continues, and it just, by the end, you are playing a whole different type of game. I wish I could talk more about it, but if I do, it's spoiling, and I can't help, and this might be a hot take in itself, I might be pissing some people off with this. I genuinely think Inscrptytion's an S tier game. I went fully into it. I was doing the mods, I was doing the betas, and there's a lot to sink your teeth into there for what it is. Great experience all around. It deserves an S tier. Risk of Rain 2 is the next game I'm going to be talking about, and this was something I saw at PAX, and I was like, I'm not going to buy that. And then more and more people kept playing it, and then I started watching. I was like, okay, I could probably get into this. Risk of Rain is solid in every single way. Between the time challenge to continue going as fast as you can, which I personally like a lot, and just the RNG versus the non-RNG aspects that you can put on yourself using specific modifiers, which is also a secret. There's a ton of replayability. And with friends, a co-op roguelike experience is always going to add more points for me. There's not enough I can say about Risk of Rain. It just deserves an S tier as well. I wish they would expand on the roster, but they're working back on Risk of Rain 1. The next game I'm going to be talking about is Spiritfall. This game is still in early access, so I'm going to have to be a little more lenient to this game. But the bones that it has right now is a really solid base to work with. It's a side-scrolling, like, beat-em-up roguelike, where you get different weapons, whether it's an axe, your fists. It's very floaty in its punching, but there's a lot of like different boons you can get. It's kind of like the bear does ice moves, and like the deer might do more defensive-esque moves, but these are just like blessings you get on your character. It's a very fast-paced, like fighting action roguelike. I can't wait to see the full product. Where it stands now, I would probably put it at the bottom of B, maybe even top of C, just because there's not too much content. But I'll put it at the top of C. The content they're offering in early access is solid. Everything you need is right there. They're just gonna add more things, more relics, more items, more stages, which they do plan on doing. So I don't want to. This C is a very loose C. The next game is Super Raft Boat Together, and at first it's a very interesting game. You're a top-down twin stick shooter where you have 4 different characters. Each character has a different ability, and you have to keep your raft alive. That's kind of like your lifeblood in this game. You're trying to make it to the Super Kraken and destroy the Super Kraken. You can loop, which adds some bonuses, but the gameplay starts to get a little dull because each character only has 2 weapons. They just made it so you can buy new weapons. So if like you're the penguin will have a rocket launcher. But now you can get like the gun that the shark has, which is fine, which adds a little bit of variety, but in the long term, there's not enough item variety. A lot of it comes down to like the bottles you're getting, which would be like relics. And it takes a while to start unlocking more, and some of them just seem very, very insignificant. So by the time, like I beat Super Raft Boat, I beat the Super Kraken on my 2nd run. So it felt very easy at the beginning, so depending on how good you are at these, or even just like, maybe it's just the game itself, there is something there. It is still in early access, but I can't give it higher than a D. I will say I enjoyed it way more than Deep Rock Galactic, so it deserves that. Next, we have Vampire Survivors, which is probably the biggest steal you'll ever get for value on a roguelike. I believe this game is like $3 to $4. It is addicting. Like, it is genuinely addicting. It plays the same way Brotato does, where you just move the character as all the items do the attacking for you. So it's very build based. Not a lot of skill, unless like looping people is considered skill in your head. But the visuals and the amount of secrets, the amount of secrets in Vampire Survivors is insane. The DLC's added even more, and the value you're just getting on top of the gameplay loops, I'd give it an A. I'd give Vampire Survivors an A. The next game we have is called Wildfrost, which is an interesting hybrid between a deck building game and a like unit-based game. You're kind of taking turns attacking each other, using your deck to pull new cards out. More what I would assume Slay the Spire is like. I just enjoy the art style a little more. I enjoy the companions and how you can start off the run a little different each time depending on the champion you pick and the companion you pick. It feels difficult. It feels like a game where you have to have certain builds to beat it, which does make me feel iffy about giving it a higher ranking. It is still in early access as well, I believe. But all in all, it looks like it has a lot of good things going for it. Some good mechanics. It needs some more unlockables upon death, I feel, to continue to grow as a roguelike. But I would put it in between Brotato and Cult of the Lamb, up in B tier. Wizard of Legend is the last game I'm going to be talking about. I haven't touched this game in 3 to 4 years. But I do remember enjoying my time, but also getting burnt out at the lack of spells that you can learn. I remember the gameplay being smooth, fine, and not a lot of enemy variety. I believe there's 3 to 4 bosses, but I can't harp on that too much. It's been a long time. I just remember getting bored of the combat. So, going off of a very long time memory, I have enough hours in it where I still can see me playing this. I used to do like the electricity and ice a lot. I can't put it anywhere above. I can't put it above Going Under. I'll put Wizard of Legend at C. I apologize, I have nothing more really to say about Wizard of Legend. And that's my personal roguelike tier list. Let me know down in the comments what you guys would disagree or agree with, and also just if there's a secret gem that I haven't tried out that you think I would like. I appreciate you guys watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next time. Peace.